Do you remember when Bitcoin wicked down to $60,000 and half of YouTube told you it was over? Right-wing MAGA media was calling it Epstein coin. Commenters were saying the whole thing was a government psyop, and the real Ryan Matta was sitting in front of a camera screaming, "Bye."
So if you have not got into Bitcoin yet, you're looking at the opportunity of a lifetime, because these signals on this chart that I'm going to show you in this video only happen once every 2 to 4 years. And I would bet a large sum of money that we're within 10 to 15% of bottom if this is not the absolute bottom. I think BlackRock's selling off a lot, liquidating their Bitcoin, because the United States government about to buy a big bag and they're trying to drive down price as low as humanly possible. So this is going to be the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm going to show you on the charts. But before I dive in, today's sponsor is BYBIT. If you guys want to support my work over here on the channel, create an account on BYBIT to buy your Bitcoin. Use promo code 19834. So just like the year, early birthdays in the 80 babies, 19834. Or you can use the link down below in the description for BYBIT, but that's outside of the US. If you're inside the US, use COINBASE or Binance. I'll leave links to those down below as well.
That was Ryan calling the absolute bottom at $60,000 when almost nobody on this platform had the spine to say it out loud. I'm AI Ryan Matta. The real Ryan writes the script every single morning before his day takes over, then hands it off to his team so these daily breakdowns actually make it to you. He only gets time to shoot the short forms when he can. The deep research, the daily market reads, that all comes through here. And before you close this tab, let's talk about why that's not as crazy as it sounds. Because the same logic that made $60,000 the right buy is the same logic that makes this prediction worth taking seriously. Let's go back to that $60,000 moment for a second because the context matters. Bitcoin had come off its highs and was grinding down into the low 60,000s. Sentiment was in the gutter. The fear and greed index was reading extreme fear. On-chain data was showing long-term holders weren't selling, but nobody in mainstream financial media was talking about that. What they were talking about was scandal, association, noise, the kind of coverage that shakes out weak hands and scares away new buyers. Ryan was on camera telling anyone who would listen to buy. He wasn't saying it could go either way. He was calling a bottom in real time publicly where anyone could screenshot it and use it against him if he was wrong. He was right. Bitcoin went from that $60,000 wick and never looked back in a meaningful way. It climbed. Institutions were accumulating through ETFs the entire time. BlackRock was quietly stacking. Fidelity was stacking. Whale wallets were growing. The on-chain data was screaming accumulation while the headlines were screaming fear, and the people who listened to the noise sold. The people who listened to the supply math held. That gap is now tens of thousands of dollars per coin. Now here's where we are today. Bitcoin broke $80,000 this week. It hit $80,894 as of this morning. That's the highest price since late January 2026. $303 million in short positions got liquidated in 24 hours when it cracked through. 108 million of that happened in a single hour. The structure of this rally has institutional fingerprints all over it. April 2026 saw $197 billion in net ETF inflows. BlackRock's IBIT now holds over 812,000 Bitcoin. Cumulative ETF inflows since January 2024 are sitting at $58.5 billion. Bitcoin miners produce about 450 new coins per day after last year's halving. The ETFs are buying at a rate that dwarfs that number every single day. That's the foundation. And that's what makes $80,000 not just a number, but a structural reclaim. Bitcoin had attempted to break back above its bull market support band 4 separate times since November 2025 and failed each time. This was the breakout that held. The next level analysts are watching is $86,000. A clean hold above $80,000 and a push toward $86,000 brings $90,000 and $95,000 into serious conversation. The rally to $95,000 is plausible. The conditions for it are building. Institutional demand is outpacing supply. The strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement from the White House is expected within weeks. The Clarity Act is heading for a Senate markup that could begin unlocking the 99% of institutional capital that still cannot legally access Bitcoin. Those are legitimate catalysts. But Ryan has been in this market long enough to know what happens when Bitcoin runs from $60,000 to $95,000 in a relatively short window. Retail starts piling in late, leverage builds up in the futures market. Social media turns euphoric. Every person who sold at $65,000 and called themselves smart starts telling everyone they're about to buy back in. And then the market does what it always does to late leverage. It flushes. The $20,000 to $50,000 range he mentioned is the flush scenario, not a prediction, not a certainty. But the honest acknowledgement that a market running on momentum and late retail leverage can correct violently before continuing higher, that has happened in every single Bitcoin cycle. The 2017 run to $20,000 was followed by an 84% drawdown. The 2021 run to $69,000 was followed by a 77% drawdown. Both of those looked like the end. Neither of them were. The difference now is the institutional floor. ETFs did not exist in 2017 or 2021. BlackRock holding 812,000 Bitcoin is not going to panic sell at $50,000. Fidelity is not going to redeem shares because a few retail traders got scared. The floor is structurally higher than it has ever been, which means if a correction does come, the bottom of that correction is also likely higher than previous cycles. Ryan's range of $20,000 to $50,000 on a mega crash is the wide range. The honest version probably skews toward the upper end of that if institutional demand holds. But the point is not the exact number. The point is to not be the person who buys at $93,000 on leverage because they watched 3 YouTube videos and convinced themselves this time it only goes up. Zoom out to where this story is actually going. ARK Invest has a $16 trillion Bitcoin market cap target by 2030. That's roughly a tenfold increase from today. Their thesis rests on ETF demand, corporate treasuries following Strategy's playbook, and sovereign adoption. All 3 of those legs are actively developing right now. The US government holding sees Bitcoin is already happening. Active buying through the strategic Bitcoin reserve would change the supply math in a way that is almost impossible to fully model. Nearly 20 million of Bitcoin's 21 million coins have already been mined. There are fewer than 1 million left to produce, and miners are producing less every halving cycle. The float is tightening. The institutional buyers are not selling. The long-term holders are moving coins off exchanges into cold storage. The supply picture keeps getting tighter. Ryan called $60,000 as the bottom because he understood that dynamic better than the people yelling Epstein coin on cable news. He's flagging $95,000 as a potential local top before a correction because he understands what leverage and retail euphoria do to a market that's moving fast. Both takes come from the same place, not from noise, from watching this asset and its cycles long enough to know the pattern. The people who win in Bitcoin are not the ones who catch every move. They're the ones who hold through the noise, understand why they're holding, and don't panic when the inevitable correction comes. That was true at $60,000. It will be true at whatever price comes next. If this kind of breakdown is useful, subscribe to the channel. Ryan and I are here every day and we're not going anywhere. And head over to bitcoinmaxing.com. Ryan built a free Bitcoin retirement calculator there. You put in your stack, your timeline, and it shows you what different price scenarios actually mean for your financial future. It takes 2 minutes. It will change how you think about the coins you're holding right now. Bitcoinmaxing.com, completely free. See you tomorrow.